Before he was a global icon or the face of reggae, Bob Marley was just a boy from the hills of 9 Mile, Jamaica, who believed he could read palms. His music, his message, and his mission would soon travel far beyond those hills, becoming the voice of revolution, peace, and spirit for millions. But behind the fame was a man tested by poverty, betrayal, violence, and fate. This is the real story of Bob Marley, raw, relentless, and unforgettable. Bob Marley was born on February 6, 1945, on his grandmother's farm in 9 Mile, Jamaica. His mother, Cedella, was a young black Jamaican woman, just 18 years old. His father, Norval Marley, was a 60-year-old white British military man who abandoned the family not long after Bob was born. Bob rarely saw his father, except once, when Norval attempted to kidnap him and left him with strangers in Kingston. A family friend rescued Bob and brought him back to 9 Mile, where Cedella raised him. Bob's early life was steeped in struggle, but he showed signs of being different. People in the village believed he had psychic abilities. He read palms, gave advice, and seemed to carry an old soul in a young body. He also loved soccer, a passion that would stay with him for life.
In this great future, you can't forget your past.
As a young boy, Bob met Neville Livingston, the boy who would become Bunny Wailer. Their mothers fell in love and moved the family to Kingston, where Bob, Bunny, and Bunny's dad shared a tiny home in Trench Town. They were so poor that Bob had to sleep under the house and the ground. But it was here that music began to shape his future. Bob and Bunny discovered American R&B and ska from radio broadcasts and began singing together. A kind local musician, Joe Higgs, began teaching them music theory and harmony. Bob also picked up guitar lessons from Vincent Ford. By 15, Bob had dropped out of school to become a welder, but a shard of metal in his eye changed his life. After that accident, he gave up welding for good and said yes to music. The Wailers were born when Bob, Bunny, and a new friend named Winston McIntosh, later known as Peter Tosh, teamed up. They started as the Teenagers, then the Wailing Rude Boys, then the Wailing Wailers, and finally just the Wailers. Their song, Simmer Down, became a local hit in 1964, selling 80,000 copies and launching them into the Jamaican music scene. But money was tight. Bob married fellow singer Rita Anderson in 1966, becoming a stepfather to her daughter, Sharon. In search of better opportunities, he moved temporarily to Delaware in the United States, where his mother lived. Bob worked factory jobs, was a forklift operator at Chrysler, a lab assistant, a dishwasher, anything to survive. But he hated life in America. Less than a year later, he returned to Jamaica and began embracing Rastafarianism, growing dreadlocks and deepening his spiritual connection. In the late 1960s, Bob, Bunny, and Peter launched a label called Wail and Soul. They recorded several local hits but struggled financially. As political tensions and poverty rocked Jamaica, Bunny was arrested for cannabis possession and spent over a year in prison. Peter was arrested during an anti-apartheid protest. The band's early producers, including Lee "Scratch" Perry, didn't pay them well, and a dispute with Leslie Kong over an unauthorized album release led to a strange incident. Bunny reportedly cursed Kong, who died of a heart attack days later. It felt like the world was working against them. Meanwhile, Bob and Rita had more children, including Ziggy and Steven. Desperate to support his growing family, Bob followed singer Johnny Nash to Europe and signed with CBS Records. But when the tour ended, the Wailers were broke and stranded in London. That's when a meeting with Island Records founder Chris Blackwell changed everything. Blackwell, who had grown up in Jamaica, gave them £8,000, a huge sum, to record an album. It became Catch a Fire, released in 1973. It wasn't a huge commercial success at first, but critics loved it. The Wailers went on tour in the UK and US, even opening for Sly and the Family Stone, until they were kicked off for being too popular. Blackwell gave Bob his own home in Kingston. The Wailers followed up with Burnin', featuring Get Up, Stand Up, and I Shot the Sheriff. Eric Clapton's cover of the latter skyrocketed Bob's exposure. But Peter and Bunny had had enough. They felt sidelined, especially after Blackwell charged them for their own tour. They both left in 1974. Bob rebranded as Bob Marley and the Wailers, added new members, including Rita on vocals, and kept moving forward, even as his marriage grew complicated and Bob fathered several children outside of it. His next album, Natty Dread, featured the timeless No Woman, No Cry. The live version became a major hit, cementing Bob's global rise. Rastaman Vibration, released in 1976, cracked the US top 10 with roots, rock, reggae. That same year, the Jamaican Prime Minister invited Bob to perform at a free concert called Smile Jamaica. Just 2 days before the show, gunmen stormed Bob's house and shot him, Rita, and their manager. Miraculously, all survived. Bob performed anyway, bandaged and defiant, in front of 80,000 people. But after that, he left Jamaica, emotionally shaken. He settled in London with new partner Cindy Breakspear, who would later give birth to Damian Marley. In 1977, he released Exodus, an instant classic. It spent 56 weeks on the UK chart and featured Jamming, One Love, and Three Little Birds. Time magazine later named it the best album of the 20th century. Bob had become a global superstar. But behind the scenes, a soccer injury revealed he had melanoma, skin cancer, in his toe. Doctors recommended amputation. Bob refused. The cancer would slowly spread. While battling cancer, Bob released Kaya in 1978, featuring Is This Love. He returned to Jamaica for the One Love Peace concert and made history by bringing together rival politicians Michael Manley and Edward Seaga on stage to shake hands. That symbolic moment earned him a UN Medal of Peace. He followed with a world tour and a powerful second live album, Babylon by Bus. He also visited Africa multiple times, and his song, Zimbabwe, became a liberation anthem. In 1979, Survival delivered his most politically charged messages, while Uprising in 1980 leaned deep into spiritual themes, featuring Could You Be Loved and Redemption Song. Bob and the Wailers launched their biggest tour ever, drawing over 100,000 in Milan and selling out Madison Square Garden. But in New York, Bob collapsed while jogging in Central Park. The cancer had spread to his brain and lungs. After a final concert in Pittsburgh on September 23, 1980, he sought treatment in Germany. He passed away on May 11, 1981, in Miami, surrounded by family. He was just 36 years old. Over 100,000 people attended his state funeral in Jamaica. In death, Bob Marley became even more legendary. His posthumous album Confrontation featured Buffalo Soldier, and his Legend compilation became the best-selling reggae album of all time. Bob was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, received the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, and continues to inspire new generations. His children, like Ziggy, Damien, and Steven, have carried on the legacy. His music is still played across the world, at protests, parties, and quiet moments of hope. Bob Marley wasn't just a musician. He was a movement, a healer, a revolutionary wrapped in rhythm. And he remains, decades later, a voice that unites the world. Thanks for tuning into this story. If you enjoyed this journey through music history, hit that like button, subscribe, and let us know which artist you want next. This is Rock Fame Diaries, where the legends never fade. God bless.